I'm always a fan of actually testing myself to see if I can hear what's going on instead of looking at it.
This next song is actually an up-tempo song off of my new record, I Am. I love the lyrics so much, I actually wanted to do an acoustic version of it for you guys. It talks about a relationship being so wonderful, it's almost too good to be true. You don't know if it's a sweet dream or a beautiful nightmare.
Oh, this is her. Forgot that this song is her.
Every night I rush to my bed with hopes that maybe I'll get a chance.
So, I love this song, so I kind of hate interrupting it, but let's talk about dynamics for a second. Listen to this first note.
Every night I rush to.
So I've been working on what's called an onset, which is the start of a note. And it's a really great thing to practice. You have to be very delicate in your breath as you go up. And if you're not, it's not going to work out for you. But it's also a good way to practice dynamics. So one of the ways you can do that is take the inhale and then start exhaling and gently get on the note. Hey, hey, right? And so you have a very, it's a little airy, but it's not falsetto. And then the result is what we're hearing right here.
Every night I rush to my bed.
And so the air leakage here is deliberate. And it's not a problem. It's not unhealthy. I think people get way too obsessed with vocal closure. It all depends on what you're going for. And this is, I think we can all agree, this is a really lovely sound.
Night I rush to my bed with hopes that maybe I'll get a chance to see you when I close my eyes. I'm going out of my head.
And this is, so whenever you hear vibrato, she's doing a thyroid tilt. That's just, how it works. And, right, to bring that in, you see how when I did it, I lost that breathy quality, that very piano quality. When you tilt your thyroid cartilage, your vocal folds stretch out and can accept a lot of breath pressure behind them, or more anyway. So it's often how you go up. There's other options, of course, there's belting, but for now, let's stick with this. So as I do, hey, I would have to pull back more and have more breath control and be able to not exhale as much as I change. So, hey, right? And that's what Beyoncé is doing. Like when I do it, it's kind of awkward. I don't practice it. This is masterfully done, I think. It's great phrasing.
Every night I rush to my bed.
You see how she backs off on the word bed?
To my bed with hopes that maybe I'll get a chance.
On what I love here to make it easier on herself, on chance, on the word chance, listen to the consonant again.
Maybe I'll get a chance.
It's hard to hear, but she puts an aspirate after chance. So anytime you have an unvoiced consonant, ch, t, k, right? Things that don't involve your voice, you can dump air. So, right? So you can put an aspirate, you can put the H sound behind that, and that allows you to go softer. It's like a nice little trick.
With hopes that maybe I'll get a chance.
Right?
To see you when I close my eyes. I'm going out of my head. Lost in a fairy tale. Can you hold my hand and be my guide? Clouds filled with stars cover the.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, let's talk about this.
Lost in a fairy tale. Can you hold my hand and be my guide?
I mean, it's so impressive the way she's intentionally moving through phrases. It has been the case that every time we cover a great singer of renown of some sort on this channel, every single phrase has details and nuance in them. And this is no exception.
When I close my eyes, I'm going out of my head.
And again, head, aspirate, letting those, she's bringing a little bit more. She's, you know, it's the second to third phrase in, so she's comfortably giving it a little bit more volume. But this dial that she's turning, she is gradually turning this in terms of bringing more volume.
Lost in a fairy tale, can you hold my hand and be my guide? Clouds filled with stars.
This, on the word stars, she is contracting her false folds to give this little tension. So stars. So stars would be open with tilt. Stars would be open without tilt. Stars. I'm not very good at this. I don't practice false fold contraction. Stars. You see how it's a little bit of a grit there? Now she doesn't, when she does it, she doesn't go flat because she practices it. But
Be my guide, clouds filled with stars.
That sort of lurchy thing is the false folds contracting, and watch how she approaches it.
Filled with stars.
She doesn't try to sustain it because it is inherently a little uncomfortable, but that's why it gives that sound. So all this breath control we were talking about in the beginning and how she's using gentle onsets, right? She's applying that here. That strain when the false folds come together is very, very, very exhausting if there's too much breath behind it. But if you're precise, you can get the effect without the vocal fatigue, or at least not as much of it.
Cover the sky.
That's beautiful. Listen to this air dump again. Sky, S and K, both unvoiced consonants.
The sky.
So delicate. And that's hard to do on the lows as well. That's deceptively hard. If you tilt on the lows, sky, sky, but like to get that sky, right? It's a lot of precision, and she doesn't sound at all uncomfortable on it.
And I hope it rains. You're the perfect lullaby.
Ooh, yeah. I love this. Again, like just a gajillion things happening every phrase.
And I hope it rains.
Part of this is that there's no pop filter on the microphone, so you're getting all these consonants, but it's also the dynamics.
And I hope it rains.
And I hope it rains. And then we get that false fold contraction on rains, but I love this hope.
And I hope it rains.
It's hope, like she kind of punches it, which is fine. She's in a range where that's fine to do, right? She's not going up super high, so she can introduce inefficiencies for the sake of artistic expression. So she kind of punches that a little bit.
And I hope it rains. You're the perfect.
That's so cool. So to go from like really, really punching it, really giving it a lot of air, giving a strain with a false fold contraction, letting all of it go immediately to go up.
You're the perfect lullaby.
And you hear how that airiness comes in and out depending on what she's doing.
Lullaby.
Right?
You can be a sweet dream, a beautiful nightmare.
That's really tricky. So I'm going to imagine that these are backup singers. Now there's only 2 of them, which means any mistake that happens is blatantly obvious. So these singers have to be right on the money.
A beautiful nightmare. Either way, I don't wanna wake up from you.
I love that little crack she does on purpose.
I don't
Right? It's expressive.
wanna wake up from you. Oh, beautiful nightmare. Somebody picture me. Your love's too good to be true. My guilty pleasure, I go.
Oh man. So whoever's on the percussion, fantastic stuff. But I love how these backup singers are matching dynamics. You see how she drops out, and it's almost like you didn't notice she drops out. That's how good the blending is. So people sleep on blending as a skill. Everyone wants to be the soloist and what have you. But blending is really important. Let's not forget in the beginning of the career of Beyoncé, she's in Destiny's Child, where she has to learn to blend. Chloe and Halle, expert blenders. Knowing how to adjust your sound to the singers around you to make a perfect blend is a very real skill, and it's a very important skill, and no one ever talks about it. But if you listen to it, here's the reward of being good at it. Did you even notice she dropped out? Because I didn't. I had to hear it again. I had to hear oh, she started singing again. I didn't even hear her drop out. Elegant as all get out. So this is really cool right here. So she's belting. She's belting, which is a different tilt. It's a cricoid cartilage tilt. So she's belting, and then immediately switches the cricoid. Like she stops tilting the cricoid, starts tilting the thyroid, and is very delicate on the air. And you'd think that these belts would require more air. But belting requires very little air. So what's impressive here is not that she's switching up her breath control. She's not. She's consistently using the right amount of air. But what's impressive is this larynx gymnastics that's going on, right? Tilting the cricoid, stop tilting the cricoid, use the thyroid cartilage, and then she uses an aspirate sound to get a little bit more delicate on this note. That one. And here we go. See what I'm talking about? I'll be floating on your mind, or a beautiful nightmare. Nice. Either way, I don't want to wake up from you. Practicing your runs on an oo vowel is a really good idea. And listen to the effect. If you're going to do a run as a way to tie off a phrase, which is to say you're kind of like, you have your phrase and then you just kind of like let it go smoothly with a run, and oo vowel is an excellent way to do that. Take a listen to how this phrase just kind of gets wrapped up here. Don't wanna wake up from you. And she is decrescendoing without any introduction of the air, like the breathy sound that she was doing. And this is important because oftentimes breathy tone can be the mark of someone who has to learn a few things, because it's not efficient to sing with a lot of breathiness. You're going to dry out your vocal folds. But clearly she knows the difference, because when she goes here, she lowers the dynamic, gets very quiet, but doesn't have breathiness. Wonderful. Wake up from you. Ooh. So this is something I regret that I trained out, and this is something that classical singing kind of trains out of you, is these apps, the cracks, and using the cracks. Wake up from you. That growl, so if I go to my low end, ooh, like, lie to me, it's sort of this thing, but you can do it softer. So this is kind of a growl, but it's very soft. It's just sort of like an onset of air. Wake up from it's a vocal fry. Wake up for you, right? So she goes from that vocal fry into a chest register, flips up into her falsetto. I hear mic technique there. I think she pulled away. That's not something you do with your voice. I think she pulled away the mic there. Ooh, yeah. Perfect growl. Ooh, Okay, on these runs, pay attention to the rhythm. Pay attention to how she keeps these runs relevant musically by adding this rhythm. It interesting by giving rhythmic emphasis on the offbeats. So if you tap your foot, when their foot goes up, that's an offbeat. So right? It's very interesting. I love this too. So Beyonce doesn't just belt or use classical technique. She's got all these tricks. And so up here, she's actually just raising her larynx to get higher, but it doesn't sound strained because, again, breath. Brings that classical thyroid tilt there. Wow. Wow. Musically, this is one hell of an arc. To go from very, very delicate to there's epics. There's epic stuff going on. There's drums. There's the backup singers. And then boom, let's go back to quiet for a second. I got chills. Now, I'm not terribly familiar with Beyonce. I'm going to guess, since this is a medley, she did the epic. She went back into this very quiet sort of thing so that she'll have more room to grow. And I'm guessing she changed the tune as she went quiet, which would actually make a lot of sense.
I love you. Baby, I love you. You are my life. My happiest moments were incomplete if you weren't by my side. You're my relation.
Listen how legato these phrases are. They're so smooth.
Were incomplete if you weren't by my
You could just do this too.
You're my relation.
It's like she's playing cello.
To the sun, with you next to me, there's no darkness I can overcome. You are my raindrops.
This.
I am the sea.
It's so elegant. It's so elegant. That's so wonderful. It's so smooth. It's so beautiful. And she did that after doing these like little growl things. That, like, you see how that's like a little grit, right? It's like you could see a ballet dance. Then she brings back this percussive way, like this percussive way of singing, where it's a lot more. It's almost like a rap here, right here. It's very speech-like.
Baby, I'm so proud to be your girl. Make the confusion go away from this cold and fix the world.
Yes.
I'm in love with you.
Yes, rhythm section. Yes.
From this cold and fix the world. I'm in love with you. You set me free. I can't do this thing called.
Her internal metronome is crazy on point here. And I'm not sure if this is a backing track that she did to do it live or if she has actual percussionists with her on stage. If it's the latter, that's mind-boggling how they're on beat and they're emphasizing the offbeat and she's on her consonants and the rhythm is just crazy on point.
You're here with me 'cause I'm dangerously in love with you. I'll never leave. Just keep loving me the way you love me.
Nice.
Every time I see your face, my heart smiles every time.
This is why she's such a good artist. This is why she's such a good artist. She has not done the same thing over and over again, like once. Like everything is incredible. Detail. It's so thoughtful. It's so prepared. It's so like amorphous. You're not getting the same thing. She's bringing different things like all the time. Every like 15 seconds, she's on something new. But it also makes sense. Like it's tied together. It's not like a random decision to do something different.
So good it hurts sometimes. Created in this world to love, to hold.
And then she goes right back into this perfect blend with her backup singers. Listen to this.
Created in this world to love, to hold, to feel, to breathe, to live you.
Yes. Listen to that grind, the little bit of fry that she adds in there to add that color, that sort of panned tone. It's not super clean on purpose. It's the false fold contraction that's giving her that little bit of fry. It's not, so the false folds have a range of motion, right? So you can contract them to the point of like, right? Where it's like really, really not good. But you can also lightly introduce it to get this sort of strained sound. The problem is that your vowels, your placement, your vowels, and your breath need to be on point, because if they're not, it's going to go flat and it's going to drain your endurance.
Dangerously
Okay, one more. Ordinarily, I'm at the point in my life where a saxophone kind of ruins things, unless it's intentionally 80s camp. But I gotta say, I like the sax here. I'm converted. Saxophones are not cheesy. Ooh. Okay. Okay, Cracks. Hold on. This is so cool. And maybe I find this particularly interesting because I can't do it anymore. I can't yodel anymore. But check out how she's using the cracks. And they're different kinds of cracks, right? Check this out. That's one crack. Like the end of that run is really like sumptuous. It's nice, but the beginning of the run is a bunch of these cracks, bunch of these yodels. I once talked to a singer that does way more contemporary stuff than I do, and he would actually do scales on cracks, and that kind of sounds like this when he would do it. It would sound exactly like this. Well, the cracking part. Okay, sax duet. There's just so much to that. If I stopped on every note of that run, we would be here for way longer than is appropriate. Come on now. So there's tons going on in these runs. It's just so intricate. So we have the raising of the larynx here. Right, super raised larynx to get that effect. Goes back to that breathy, husky thing as she goes down. That vocal fry again. Yes. So that's I guess, so she's doing, it's a thyroid tilt, but you can get this sort of effect if you kind of like, but like better. Like she does it really well. It's probably with the jaw or the larynx. Something is going like that to get that effect. Then I think she's really, is she breathy here? Hold on. her runs are so musically tasteful. It's so pretty, too. Her voice is just beautiful. Like, putting all this technique aside, what a wonderful sound to come out of a human being. Yes, okay. Yes. And do you see how her reining it in here allows for, because this is a 9-minute, 30-second performance. If she gives it all here, what is she going to do for the next 3 minutes? So she's bringing it. And she really takes time with that transition into something softer and smoother. Listen to these wonderful husky low notes. If you try to reach for your lows, like, if like you're pushing your tongue down, you're doing all of this stuff to get your lows, it doesn't sound good. Like, you might think it sounds good because of the way bone conduction works. Like, you don't sound... What you hear when you sing is not what you sound like, period, particularly in your lows, because of how bone conduction works. So you might think this sounds good, but it doesn't. And I know that doesn't sound good for me because I've recorded myself and it sounds terrible. But if you just let the low note happen, let the breathiness happen, it sounds more lush. And that's what she's doing here. She's not trying to get volume here. She knows she can't get volume. She knows she's not like a contralto or a mezzo or whatever. This is her low. And so she's just letting it happen. And it actually works really, really well in the phrase. Stay with me and you will see my arms. Oh, beautiful transition. I want to hear it again. I'm selfish. With me and you will see my arms. I love that so much. She's going from, so she really popularized this thing where it's almost like you just got out of bed in the morning and you kind of like, everything's really relaxed here. And it's like a little bit of a droop, soft palate and loose lips. And it sounds really, really, really intimate. And it also boosts the lower frequencies here. And then she brightens the vowels, lightens the voice, and it's contrast. It's shocking almost, because she was doing this thing, and now she's doing this thing. Dark, bright, and it really puts together a very interesting phrase. We'll hold you, baby, never leave, 'cause I believe in this love, sweet love. One of the things that is really important, so obviously this transition goes into way more rhythm, right? The drums are in there, she's putting in more rhythm. But if you become too amorphous, like if we go back to the slow section, if you don't have an internalized metronome, this stuff can drag on a little too much. Check this out. 'Cause I believe in this love, sweet love. She's right on the money. And she was right on the money before this as well. And it's not self-indulgent. I think singers get to the slow section, they want to hear themselves for way longer than they should. You have to have internalized meter. You have to have a sense of rhythm as a singer. If you don't, you kind of get boring. Yes. It will always be this way. There's no stronger love in this world. Oh, baby, no, you're my man, I'm your girl. Oh, baby, no, just wait and see. This can't be wrong. Don't you know this is where you belong? Oh, so sweet. she's so interesting in how she changes tone here. So this is, again, that thing I was talking about where she's like just getting out of bed. Is just so her. This tone here. So if you go E, it's the dripping of the soft palate and pursing of the lips. E, and she does it so well. It sounds so intimate, and it's just a radically different change in tone. Like that tone that she achieved versus this like little yodel thing she's doing. That again offers contrast. The darkening of the E vowel versus this light, bright flipping that she's doing. So sweet, so sweet. Nice. Okay, this is some gymnastic stuff, okay? She's gonna get a gold medal here. This is a belt into a thyroid cartilage tilt. So she's both belting and singing classically at the same time. It is possible, it's doable, but it takes some know-how and some darn good chops. You hear how smooth, when the vibrato's in there, that's the thyroid cartilage. When it's, I think most people can identify a belt when they hear it. Listen to these transitions and how silky smooth they are. Oh yeah, okay. Listen to the drummer and her at the same time. Listen to this. Listen to this. How much rehearsal do you think they had to get that in? Come on, one more time. It's so good. That's so tight. Just love me sweetly, baby. Just love me sweetly, baby. Okay. Oh, still my heart. Again, listen to this transition. She's growling, she's doing all the crazy belts, and listen to how she's holding this note out and brings it to a different place. She immediately lightens up and throws in some vibrato. Okay, okay.
Oh, baby, I'm in love with you. You set me free. I can't do this thing called life without you. Dangerously in love.
So this is really, really clever. This happens all the time in jazz. It's a 9 chord to end it all. So, you know, hold on. You dangerously in love. So she's on the 2nd of the chord. So a 9th chord is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So she's on, I think, the 9th of this chord. That takes a lot of musical know-how. And this is the thing, is that I don't think people understand when it comes to runs in Temple University in the jazz program, the jazz singers were trained to identify what chord they were on and understand what options they had in terms of scales, and also understood the riffs that can exist in those scales. And one of the best ways to learn it is to do what's called transcribing, which is basically just learning, like if you would sit down with Beyoncé music, slow this down on YouTube, and then just copy it. Basically, it's how you learn this stuff and build an intuition. But stuff like this, where she's ending on the 9th, is really, really intelligent. At least she's landing on something that's interesting. if she's not on the second degree of the scale. But that's
Thank you,
really,
guys.
really smart musically. Just wow. Now I got to go practice and feel like I'm not that good, because I'm not. If you like this kind of video, check out the live streams. I got it right, finally. The live streams right over there, either one of the two. Pick whatever one interests you. That's where I let viewers decide what we're reacting to, what we're talking about. So if that interests you, go ahead and check those out.